What is up guys, Cash back again, and today we got our first dev stream since I believe February, and while the stream itself was focused on talking about Jane Foster and giving players a chance to get to know the actress behind the hero, we did get a bit of insight about what's coming in terms of story content from one of the lead developers, and depending on how you feel about story content will determine how you feel about this new direction the game is heading in. So I'll let you guys hear exactly what was said, and I'll break down what exactly this could mean and give my thoughts on this new change. So let's jump into it.
So I would say, Brian and Alex, are there any other things you want to just throw out there, mention, shout outs, anything like that? And then we will sign off with a really cool little video before we go.
Yeah, so one thing that obviously a lot of people have been talking about in chat today, which is around hero operations and hero narrative. And so as with Spider-Man and now with Jane, we're trying some different ways of injecting narrative into the game with them that isn't as large as, say, a hero operation. Hero operations take a very long time to build and take a very long time to polish and ship. And so our goal, and one of the things that we and I can't get into a lot of details around it, but one of the things that we did with Jane was we have, on the development side, have changed a lot of how we develop and produce our heroes in an effort to get them out faster. And so we were trying a lot of new things, which is why it still took us, the normal amount of time to get her out compared to another hero. But we're hoping to see that stuff pay off with the next hero and heroes that we do. I don't know that we're currently, right now, we're not planning on doing any more Kate and Clint or even Black Panther length operations. But what I will say is that just like we did with Jane, and how heroes have a spectrum of kind of, their abilities and what sets them apart, we want to do that with the narrative side as well. And since the narrative is such an important piece of this game, it's now knocking things off my desk. We want to find ways to tie the heroes that come into the game with the overarching narrative of the game. Some will tie in more when they do arrive than others. For instance, our next hero that we're working on right now will tie almost directly into, thank you, we'll tie it directly into kind of the events of what's coming in the next few updates that we've talked about a little bit. So we just want to keep trying different things and see what works, right? And see what works better, what doesn't, learn from it, adapt, and go from there. So when we're not going to say, yes, the next heroes that we have are going to have the same type of operations as before, we're taking your feedback, we're listening to your feedback, we have our own feedback on what we want to do, and we're going to keep iterating, keep trying new things, and see what we can do with that.
So as you guys heard, the team's goal is to package hero story content in a different way than what we saw in the past with different hero operations and expansions. And the logic behind this change is to A, get to a place where heroes and multiplayer content is able to be released faster, and B, to better utilize the team's time and resources on content that players will engage with more often, because large story operations like Future Imperfect and the War for Wakanda needed a lot of time and development to bring to the game, and when it dropped, a lot of players played through the new campaign, completed it, and then put the game down because they're not interested in the game's in-game content. Now, the reason this is bad in the long term is because this content that takes so much time and resources to create is not bringing any return on that investment, because those players who want story content only pop in to check for new story content and nothing else. And when that story content is free in a live service game, that model just isn't going to be sustainable long term in a game that has to operate on profits. They've insisted the business model won't change, so you'll always get hero content for free like we just saw with Jane Foster, and the trade-off is they hope that players will purchase the challenge cards and marketplace items like takedowns and nameplates. But if players are checking out after completing the story content, then there's no way for them to make any money on content that took a ton of money and resources to create. I know players want to see a big story-driven expansion with the arrival of Captain Marvel when the Kree arrive, and I know Brian has said they're moving away from bigger expansions, but that doesn't necessarily mean they won't fill in those gaps between missions with a new cutscene or two, which is honestly all you would need as long as there's new enemies, missions, and a hero and a villain added. Brian was asked about fully rendered cutscenes continuing to be a part of new hero introductions in the future, and he wouldn't give a definitive yes or no, but instead reiterated that not all heroes will be introduced the same way as Jane. Some yes, others no. It will depend on the hero, their origin in their world, and how it ties into the upcoming overarching Avengers narrative. So my takeaway from that response is that they'll be operating on a case-by-case scenario, meaning where it feels necessary to add elements like cutscenes, they will, and if they feel a simple motion comic trailer will suffice, they'll explore that option. Again, I don't think players wanting an immersive story from new hero content are wrong, because it was the game's initial design that set that expectation, and I think the challenge for the developers now will be to find that sweet spot between continuing to deliver that immersive experience for those players, but inside of multiplayer focused in-game content that players will want to engage in weekly and continue to be around to purchase skins and takedowns to help keep the lights on. But now I pass things off to you guys. How do you feel about this new direction the team is exploring with dialing back on big operations and expansions? And what are you expecting to see from the next hero release? Let me know down below, and make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed the video and subscribe for more Marvel's Avengers content every week. And if you're interested in picking up Avengers merch, shop with Fandom and make sure to use my code in the description to get an additional 10% off. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll catch you on the next one.